Hello Company of Heroes fans and welcome to a Company of Heroes game review. Unlike my previous casts, the more common ones, this is going to be primarily focused on what one of the players does, in this case the Wehrmacht player. I will be offering my insight or how do I feel about the choices he makes. I will be trying to give him tips while he progresses playing the game, as well as point out what I think was wrong or what I think he did right, in order for him of course to get that feedback that he himself asked for by posting this replay on GameReplays.org, more specifically in the request a replay review thread of the Wehrmacht strategies subforum of the Company of Heroes section. If you want to have your replays of course reviewed in such a manner, be free to message me a link to the replay either with a PM on YouTube or with a PM on GameReplays.org. I go by the name of aramonkg on both these domains. This of course is not the first cast of such nature that I have put on my channel. This is actually the second one. The first one received a mostly positive response, so I thought it would be nice to go on and do another one. Of course regular casts will continue, it's something extra that I do in the process. So let's go directly into the game. Wehrmacht player of course opening up with the standard Pioneer build. However, he has queued up 3 Pioneers, actually 2 and the initial one 3. He may be going for an FHQ strategy, but that remains to be seen. And no, that does not seem to be the case. He gets out the Wehrmacht quarters, and I'll take the time here to pause the game and talk a little bit about that. 3 Pioneers of course will mean that he will have much more of a capping power at the beginnings of the game. However, his first real fighting unit will be delayed on the field, and that actually may make the difference of whether he will be able to leave through the early American players' pressure or not. So I'll talk about that in a moment whenever that first unit out of the Wehrmacht quarters comes on the field. Continuing with the replay of course, capping order, nothing out of the ordinary here, although I would have favored going for the munitions first and backupping with the 3rd Pioneer here on the strategic sector. However, he sends his 3rd Pioneer to the west. Given that he has already 3 Pioneers in the field, he kind of can afford it in such a way. However, I'm still a bit I don't really like it that much. I don't really like the opening that much, and this is the time that I will explain why I don't like the opening that much. Not the time, it's 1 minute 51 seconds. Now, here's how the cookie crumbles. The American rifleman, the first squad of American riflemen actually hits the field, provided of course that you do not miss a significant amount of time at the beginning, building the barracks of course and queuing up the riflemen. Comes on the field at around the 1 minute 12 second mark. That of course means, we being currently at the 1 minute 50 second mark, that the riflemen have 38 full seconds to cap their first point and scout this particular area of the map. Usually what the American players do, unless they do some very fuel-oriented openings, they will send the engineers to the west and to the east portion of the map, and with their first riflemen they will cap of course this strategic sector there, and then try to peek and see what the situation is here, because usually here is where the Wehrmacht player will indicate which part of the map he actually favoring. If they see wire here, if they see an FHQ here, they have a pretty good idea of what is going on. And by saying that, 38 seconds are more than enough for the riflemen to come here, see no units, and possibly garrison the house or even cap the strategic sector. And whenever they see a unit coming out of the Wehrmacht player's side, they just go into the house and stall. So that is why this opening is risky. Yes, it does give you a better capping power at the beginning, but it's very risky as far as the harassment play goes, especially on this particular map, which it's pretty easy for the Americans to find out what is going on and try to harass them. So let's go on. As you see, of course, I have the fog of war on, so I pretty much know nothing about the American players' intentions and units. Here is an indication of a miscued capping command having both his Pioneers there. He actually quickly responds, microing a bit here. He could have actually gone towards his fuel to protect it a little bit. Now he does so. and he had an indication of a rifleman here and some more riflemen here, so he does know that there are already 2 riflemen on the field, which is pretty standard if you go for completely and totally rifleman start instead of getting a jeep or something like that. The timings for the second, third and fourth rifleman is 2 minutes 30 seconds for the second, 3 minutes and 15 seconds for the third, and around 4 minutes and 50 seconds for the fourth rifleman to hit the field. So you also need to keep that in mind when you actually try to figure out what your opponent is doing. At this specific portion of the game, he must actually, the Wehrmacht player, he needs to pay attention here, which is of course a very easy kind of flanking path for the American. He needs to pay attention to this, or rather this flank, in case another rifleman squad comes. If he does pay attention to the time though, he will know that there is no way there's another rifleman squad on the field, so he should feel okay for the moment being. Now, my concern here is that the Wehrmacht player, considering that he focuses primarily on this portion of the map, he needs to put wire here. If you put wire here, you can block this flank, because the MG42 bunker is actually going to catch anyone that tries to bypass the wire, so the American player needs to bring an engineer squad here in order to cut the wire and flank. In the same way, you can stop garrisoning this building, or protecting this building rather, with an MG42, and put wire here and here, and use your MG to cover the much more important high fuel point here. Whenever there is a threat, by seeing someone cutting the wire here, you can reposition the MG42 and make sure that nothing is going wrong there. So that's some of the early observations. So let's go on and see how the game unfolds. As you see here, nice move by the Wehrmacht player going back into the house, so the American player will have to find something else to attack. Those riflemen trying to circle strafe eventually will have to retreat, and that's exactly what happens. A nice attempt here by the Wehrmacht player to harass the American player. However, time of course indicates that there is of course another squad of riflemen on the field, so that is not going to be working out for him. Third squad out of the Wehrmacht forces is another Volksgrenadier squad, which is actually nothing wrong with that. He has the MG, he just goes for some more infantry in order to stop the riflemen and the engineers. However, I don't really like that. That third, let's pause and explain what I mean. The third rifleman squad, the third Volksgrenadier, or rather second Volksgrenadier squad and third unit out of the Wehrmacht forces, tried to advance towards the west portion of the map. He should have never ever tried to even do that. Now, Wehrmacht squad on their own, especially Volksgrenadier, really not that good against riflemen if they are trying to engage them, especially at such a position here. A rifleman in green cover, a rifleman under at a range that they can stay and shoot, and even if they are not effective with their green cover, they will take a while to take damage. It will take a while to take damage on them. This field is very open. There's no way that Volksgrenadiers can actually get into a position that could be useful. So first thing off the bat, I need wire here, specifically since Wehrmacht player seems to be focusing in the east. This MG42 needs to get out of the house, protect the fuel, wire this position, and even place a mine behind it, and he needs to keep his folks nearby so that he can focus fire the flanking squad of riflemen over the flanking engineer squad with flamers whenever the American player decides to attack the position of the MG42. Apart from that, pretty okay, although I would not cap this sector. It's not really needed unless you want to play some form of bunker over here or some such sort of building, although I don't think it's actually necessary at the moment. So let's keep going. This squad of folks, once again, don't really like them trying to advance towards the west portion of the map. It would be much better to hold this portion of the map. Once again, lying mires under this with the American player having line of sight of them not really gonna pay off. And here is exactly what I was talking about. The flame engineers came from behind. They actually try to flame the MG42 in the house, which of course takes increased damage when that happens. And now the MG42 may even go down. That was a slip up of the American player here, going into the mine, not having seen it being laid down, which of course actually is rather lucky for the Wehrmacht player. Another question is, if that MG42 goes down, it's pretty game over right here. Those riflemen do have taken damage from the mine, but they are far from being dead, and they are at close range. If the rifleman goes down, two pioneers and a single squad of folks won't be able to hold against all those riflemen, especially since there's another, engineer squad can come out of the building and kill them. And there's of course this third rifleman squad here that may actually be able to flank the position of the Wehrmacht player once again. So pretty bad positioning at this engagement for the Wehrmacht player overall. The lack of wire here, not preventing the engineers trying to flank the MG42. But you would say, well, the engineers can cut the wire. Yes, but it takes time. If he had even noticed them cutting the wire, he could bring his folks from this portion of the map and kill them quite quickly. And he also would have plenty amount of time, should wire be there, in order to find out that they were cutting the wire and move the MG42, for example, out of the building, covering just the north of the sun, depending on what he at that moment considered much more dangerous. Let's keep going to see if the MG42 goes down and how this engagement is going to unfold. Let's slow down a little bit. MG42 still not going down, Rifleman having to retreat, and it seems that the Wehrmacht player will hold for the time being. These riflemen here by the American player were not actually utilized to the best of their ability. There were no grenades in the mix, so the American player does not seem to be favoring them at the moment being. There's even no bars on the fields or BARs on the field, so I'm guessing that American player is either going to take up, or it's just a delayed form of rifleman upgrades. But usually we would have an indication of other grenades or bars by this particular moment, so I'm not sure what is going on there. Now, this sort of advancement here by the Wehrmacht player is kind of precarious, I would say. Yes, they can try to cut the American player off, but still a three-man false grenadier squad is not going to be enough even against those engineers that we saw there in green cover. And this is another thing that I have a problem with. Creek barracks after 3 Wehrmacht quarter units. Very, very risky. Given the unit composition at this moment, and given that I don't know why he gets that Krieg's barrack at the moment. He badly needs either another squad of folks to try to hold on the riflemen. He badly needs to reinforce this MG42. He needs to spend that 500 manpower on something else other than a unit out of the Krieg's barracks at the moment. Another MG42 would work wonders for him. He needs to lay down that wire. He seems to be favoring mines, but I don't like mines. Yes, mine spam can be really good because the riflemen take the manpower damage, they are suppressed when they hit them or even pinned. You can focus them down with some folks and force them to retreat. However, you spend so much munitions on something that you could have spent far more or less munitions, because by wiring this area here and placing a mine here, and by wiring this area here, you just have actually what am I trying to say? You actually achieve the same effect, but with a cost of only 25 munitions and the downtime of 1 pioneer laying wire and nothing else. Plus you can use this MG42 and the rest of your infantry force to hold this portion of the map that's actually the most important one, and just leave this area here protected by mines, and whenever there's a threat you just send your MG42 back. And in any case, you do need more tier 1 units. This kind of play here by the Wehrmacht player, the 3 pioneer, the rush to tier 2 after only 3 Wehrmacht quarter units, is very, very risky, specifically against rifleman upgrade heavy play by a US opponent. So that being said, let's go on. And this MG42 needs to be reinforced ASAP. In any case, let's see how this game is gonna unfold from this point onwards. Kind of badly hurt folks here. Won't be able to hold, well, will be able to hold against one single squad of riflemen. When the other riflemen come here and reinforce them, it's not gonna be pretty at all. Mines, of course, continue to be laid down by the Wehrmacht player, which is, as I said before, I don't really like it, because of mine spam can be okay, can be devastating, but at the same time drains your munitions income unnecessarily, specifically because it's only focused on that strategic sector and nothing more. That could have been protected in a much more cost-efficient way, munition-wise, by using wire and just a single mine. And here, of course, the harassment will pay off just for a little bit. Once again, lying mines in line of sight of the American player. I think this time it's not gonna work. Yes, the pioneers are focused down by the riflemen, and they are gonna be dying quite quickly. First unit out of the Greek barracks is a Grenadier squad, and another Grenadier squad coming out of for the Wehrmacht player, without any form of veterancy at the moment, without any med bunker at the moment. So this is another pause here that I'm gonna be using to take a look at what is wrong with what the Wehrmacht player is doing, apart from the defensive and the heavy investment in mines and the lack of munitions to do something else. I don't like this heavy infantry play here. He actually shows his cards by going for four grenadiers this early in the game and showing them. He shows his cards by not getting any med bunker, because if there was a med bunker, it would usually be in that location, and the American player has not seen any med bunker, so he pretty much kind of feels comfortable even exchanging infantry forces with the Wehrmacht player, since the only thing he has to do is just retreat in time. Kills that go to the riflemen on the engineers will help their veterancy. Kills that on the Wehrmacht player side are not going to be turned into grenadiers from a med bunker, so there's nothing wrong with the American player actually trying to trade with the Wehrmacht player. And not only that, but at this moment the American player can just get bars or grenades right off the bat without worrying about any form of light armor killing him from the Wehrmacht player side, without worrying for MG42s, because he had just seen the one MG42 and then Grens, so he pretty much knows, he pretty much has a very good indication that the Wehrmacht player will most probably invest in more Grens and veterancy at this moment. So as I said, bars and grenades for him would work wonders, and on the other hand, the lack of a med bunker, the lack of a suppressive fire by the Wehrmacht player, and the lack of munitions that have only been invested in mines and cannot be used either for the med bunker itself or for their fatherland, for example, are going to be proved to be a pain for him, and let's see if that is the case. I'm gonna even be trying to speed things up a little bit here. Once again, mines be hit by the American player, really not worrying him too much, I suppose. And here come the grenades. MG42 that was never reinforced goes actually down. Once again, American forces advancing from the east. Grenades being used, one squad of engineers going down, but that really does not matter. As I said, there's no med bunker around. More grenadiers being built by the Wehrmacht player, and as you see here even in the chat, the American player realizes what the Wehrmacht player did. At this moment he holds a large portion of the map. In my opinion, he could just go for more rifleman upgrades and just end the game right here. He doesn't even have to worry that much about any form of more tech coming out of the Wehrmacht player, especially given the fact that the Wehrmacht player has such a significant manpower damage inflicted on him from those grenades and those BARs that came into play right now, and there was no way for him to kind of buffer that manpower damage because of the lack of a med bunker. So from this point onwards, what I'm expecting to see is riflemen getting kills, getting veterancy, using the grenades, using their bars, flamers coming into the mix, And of course the only response at this moment for the Wehrmacht player is just to get a Kampf center, maybe try to get some veterans on his infantry, which is of course his main and only fighting force at the moment being. Pioneers of course are not gonna be able to do anything. A single squad of riflemen will deal with any form of harassment by the Wehrmacht player. And once again, lack of med bunker, lack of any form of suppressive fire, and mines that of course do not matter at this point, because he just the American player, that is the only thing he has to do is just trade with the Wehrmacht player, get infantry on his squads, and should veterans come into play for him, he can either take up to something like a light armored vehicle, or even to a WSC, get snipers, or even get the tank depot and go directly for the heavy tanks. In any case, it will be very tough for the American player to hold whenever the next wave of attack comes from the American player. And of course more investment in mines, no indication, as we see from this area here, of a doctrine being chosen by the Wehrmacht player, something that you pretty much almost always need as the Wehrmacht in most cases, unless you massively outplay your opponent. You do need that doctrine to come into play and help you either with zeal, either with for their fatherland, but you surely need something. And as I said here, the next wave of attack from the American player actually managed to destroy the majority of the Wehrmacht player's forces. Veterans is starting to stack up for those riflemen. At this moment the American player can actually do whatever he wishes. The victory points are going to be really damaging the Wehrmacht player in the end. Continuing speeding up to see eventually what this is going to be turning into. There's not even veterans level 2 coming out for the infantry, for the Wehrmacht infantry. Just a couple of grants. There's even no AT at the moment, so, and there's even no munitions for even a single Panzerspex because of all that heavy investment in mines. And yeah, this game is pretty much over at this moment. There is an MG42 that was built of course from the Wehrmacht quarters. Kind of okay, I guess, for the Wehrmacht player, but still quite a bit late. More grenades here. Veterans level 2 for on the rifleman, single pack, not really necessary, especially after seeing all those rangers being on the field, and much more veterancy coming out of the American player's infantry. And at this moment the Wehrmacht player actually has nothing on the field. If you take a notice on the chat, you will also notice what the American player said was pretty much what was I trying to say. And once again, to recap, whether you in this case beginning as Wehrmacht on the south of Angeville, you really need to decide which portion of the map you're trying to hold, be that the west or the east. In any case, if you go for the east, and this game, you need wire here, you need wire here, you need just a single mine here just to prevent or delay harassment, and then with your MG42 or Volks and Sniper, you need to focus on holding down this area on the map. You need to keep an eye on this just to respond and nothing else. And of course you need more tier 1 units, because the moment the American player is gonna realize that you don't have that many units, he's just gonna rush to rifleman upgrades, or even some other form of taking and overrun you with it, as we just saw happen in this game. You know, micro mistakes aside, this was actually a very risky and not really that much of a high risk, high reward strategy employed by the Wehrmacht player, especially with the lack of any form of med bunker to replenish his manpower losses. So if you wanted to do that, go for a fast tier 2, for example, with Grens. You need to get that med bunker, and you surely need veterancy on your infantry a lot earlier than that. So that's all. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you made something out of it, and I'll be seeing you in the next review cast. And once again, don't forget, if you want to get your replay reviewed in such a manner, feel free to PM me on YouTube or on Game Replays. That's all. Aramonkg out.